Today on episode number 433 of the School of Podcasting's morning announcements, we have a last 5 and 5 from Ben Kruger. We've got a Because of My Podcast story, which involves me getting naked. We're going to get some feedback about SoundCloud that I bet you didn't know in our podcast rewind. And I'm going to be talking about a company that is doing flat out false advertising. Hit it, ladies.
The School of Podcasting with Dave Jackson.
Podcasting since 2005. I am your personal podcast coach, Dave Jackson, thanking you so very much for tuning in. I am greatly, that doesn't even make sense. I was going to say greatly appreciated. That doesn't even make any, is that even a real, no. I'm really happy you're here. If you're new to the show, this is where we tackle the technology. We massage your message to maximize its impact as we get you on the road to pain-free podcasting. I got like 20 plus years of basically explaining technology to people. So I come along, I flatten the learning curve, and we talk about all things podcasting. I'm super glad you're here. Our website is schoolofpodcasting.com. And if you're looking to start a podcast, that's the place to go. And, we're just, I always like to start off with a little story. And I got to grab my, can you hear the package? This came from China. China. I didn't think you could listen to podcasts in China, but this is from Kevin Deng. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. D-E-N-G. Thank you, Kevin, because of my podcast. I don't even remember what episode I said this in, but I said something like, if I could, I would listen to podcasts in the shower because I'm listening to them all the time. Drives my wife nuts, right? I'll be running the vacuum cleaner. I got my earbuds in. I'll be cooking dinner. Like that happens a lot. But when I do cook dinner, I have my earbuds in. If I go to walk the dog, that's right, I got my earbuds in. And Kevin sent me this cool, it looks like a hockey puck with a suction cup on it. But what it is, it's a Bluetooth device that you charge via USB, and then you tack it on the wall in your shower, and it's Bluetooth, and it will stream my phone. So I was getting clean this morning. Boy, this sounds bad. I was getting clean with John Biscall from Jauntus Media. Was listening to online marketing and communications in the shower this morning, and was told that I can't do that because I wake people up because I get up early. But I want to thank very much, Kevin. It's really interesting. There's a phone number on it. I tried a couple different ways to call it, but yeah, from, let's see, where did this come from? Shenzhen, Guangdong, China. Amazing. It's a global audience, kids. And Kevin, thank you so much, buddy. And there was no note like, hey, Dave, have fun in the shower. Nothing. Just a return address. So Kevin, buddy, I got it. I love it. It's awesome. And what's weird is there's no, it comes in a little plastic container that simply says waterproof Bluetooth shower speaker. Like there's no like, obviously it's not a Bose or Sony or that's it. It's really fun. And what's even cooler is when the battery starts to run out, the thing plays a message. It says, please charge the, what you call it. I was like, well, that's kind of fun. So because of my podcast, I'm listening to podcasts in the shower now. When other members of the family are not asleep. That's the ground rules on that. How did he do that? Well, he went to schoolofpodcasting.com/contact, where if you want to email me, you want to send me a voicemail message, things like that. That's the way to do it. Speaking of that, I had asked about, a couple weeks ago, we were going to reverse engineer podcasting because we're so fixated on, iTunes and new and noteworthy. In fact, when I hear the phrase new and noteworthy, I kind of throw up just a little bit in my mouth now. It's really getting to that point. Not that it's bad. It's great to be in there, but we're just so obsessed with new and noteworthy. And I said, let's reverse engineer. How are we getting our audience? And I must have done this at the end of the show because not many people responded, but that's okay. I've got a question for you to respond to today. But Colin Gray over from across the pond replied, check this out.
Hi, Dave. Colin Gray here from Podcraft.
How cool is that? He actually said Gray because he's got that whole, I love accents. Can we hear that again?
Hi Dave, Colin Gray here from Podcraft, podcast all about your favourite subject, podcasting. You can find it at podcraft.net.
Awesome guy, by the way. He does podcasts in seasons. Like he'll pick a topic and do like 10 shows on it. It's, again, a great example of taking a topic and putting your own spin on it. Very cool guy. Fine chap, I guess I could say. I'm not sure. He's a cool lad.
I really liked your idea about trying to reverse engineer audience growth, looking at how you find your last podcast. So I thought I'd put in mine. The one I'm listening to just now, and actually I listened to the first 5 episodes in the last 24 hours. That's how compelling it is the Startup Podcast. So it's by Alex Bloomberg of This American Life and the like.
And I'm going to pause that right here. He's literally like the 6th person that has told me about this podcast. So if this podcast is growing, it's by word of mouth. I've had more people go, oh yeah, have you heard this about this one? I'm like, really, what is it? It's called Startup. It's an interesting show.
So really, you'd imagine it should be quite good. The production values are excellent, so the podcast just sounds great. It's well put together. But I think the really great thing about it is actually the story. It tells a story from start to finish each episode, and there's also an ongoing story as well. So it's kind of given me lessons into how to put together a better podcast, how to really build that engagement to do with storytelling, which I've seen a few things mentioned about recently. But yeah, really, really good podcast. That's what I think makes it great. I found it actually just through word of mouth. A friend of mine had been listening to it. So I'm not sure how much that helps your reverse engineering, because, how easy is it to engineer word of mouth? But I hope that gives you an idea anyway. Just pass that on to me by somebody else. So thanks for the great show as usual, and good luck with this episode, and I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you very much, Colin. Again, you can find him at, easy for me to say, podcraft.net. And on his website it says, from novice podcaster to confident broadcaster. So thank you so much. But I think you'll, at least from the people I've talked to, and we talked about this at the Cleveland Podcasters Meetup, which if you're in Cleveland or in the Northeast Ohio area, check it out, clevelandpodcasters.com. And a lot of it was they either heard about it on another podcast, which again is kind of, time shifted word of mouth, but not a lot of people are, at least that are listening to podcasts. And that's where we need like listeners, like just Joe Blow, housefrau in the living room, doesn't know about RSS feeds. I want to find an average listener and see how they are consuming podcasts and things like that. But I do have a question. It's November as I record this. And I did this last year, and I started it in December, and boy, was that a mistake. But here's the deal. I am going to do my last episode of this year is going to be what it was last year, which is, what is your favorite podcast? Now think about this, okay? You're on a desert island, whatever the scenario is. Your phone can only subscribe to one show. One show. And so what we're looking for is, what is your favorite podcast to listen to? Tell me a little bit about it. And then why is it your favorite show? Those are the big 3. And then be sure to mention your podcast, what it's about, briefly again. Most of these are briefly, and except the why. Go on and on about the why. But mention your show, what it's about, and where we can find it. Now, here's the thing. I'm going to take these during November. So if you're listening to this in December, it's too late. But I'm also going to take your answer, get them transcribed, and turn them into a book. And I think I'm going to take the ones from last year, and I'm going to end up putting this as a book in Amazon. And now I'm going to give it away for free, for the record. That you'll still be able to get the PDF for free, but I am going to put it together. I'm going to take your examples and put it into a book. So you're going to get added exposure because you're going to be heard on this show, and then it's going to be in Amazon. So I hope that entices people to send them in, but you got to send them in now. If you go to schoolofpodcasting.com/contact, there's there. Now, obviously, you may have your podcast already. You may have a microphone. Feel free to go ahead and just record it and email it to me, dave@schoolofpodcasting.com. Put the phrase, my favorite podcast, in the subject line. That'll make life easy. And I will assemble all these. And it's kind of like a giant last 5 and 5 for the last episode, but I love the fact, really, just again, to be completely transparent, really what I'm looking for is the why. The why, because when we see why people are listening, then we can deliver that kind of content.
And now it's time for a Last 5 in 5. What were the last 5 podcasts you listened to?
All right, this is live from, I believe, the last one I have from the podcast movement floor. And I'm going to play you a little bit of 2 versions of this. One has gone through Auphonic. Now, Auphonic is AUPHONIC.com. It's a tool that will level the volumes of if you have you and a guest or things like that, but it will also try to clean up hiss and noise and hum. And there are times when cleaning up noise and hiss and hum make your show sound, your episode, your file sound a little weird. So let me play you a little bit of the beginning of this.
All right, we are here on the noisy floor of the podcast movement. Last day, we're all brain fried, and I'm standing with the one, the only Ben Kruger.
And it just makes, now again, I could be really getting too picky here because I've got a set of headphones on. I'm sitting in a quiet room, but it kind of tries to squelch the background of people talking. Let's listen to it without it.
All right, we are here on the noisy floor of the podcast movement. Last day, we're all brain fried, and I'm standing with the one, the only Ben Kruger.
So to me, I'm going to play that one. And I'm sorry, you get to hear that again. And just to say that there is no kind of one-size-fits-all. Now, for the record, I love Auphonic. I love the Levelator. But in the end, you have to vote with your ears. And there are times when you try to remove noise that instead of removing the noise, it draws attention to it. And if we listen to that whole thing, you'll see there are times when the actual people murmuring, in the background going murmur, 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 murmur. It's weird. It kind of tones it down, then it brings it up. So just a little sample of that. I always like to play with tools. And now let's listen to Ben Kruger talk about his last 5 podcasts.
All right, we are here on the noisy floor of the podcast movement. Last day, we're all brain fried, and I'm standing with the one, the only Ben Kruger from Small Business
Podcasting.com.
Excellent. You may have recognized him as the man from Authority Engine, which he still is, but we're going to give you a pop quiz. Do you have your phone? You might want to cheat.
My favorite. No, I actually use a flip phone, so I won't even be able to cheat.
Wow.
Ooh, old school.
The last 5 podcasts you listened to, and can you tell me a little bit about them?
Last 5 shows I listened to, number 1 would have been the Tim Ferriss show.
You are the third person to say that.
Well, I absolutely love it.
Because?
Because for me, it's his mentality. It's his general approach to business and approach to life of that you can mold it to how you want to approach life. And the guests that he has on the show, he asks questions that he's particularly and personally interested about. And I have very aligned interests with Tim, so
cool.
it makes it easy for me. So I'd say about 3 of the last 5 have been through him.
Okay.
And then before that, Marketing in Your Car by Russell Brunson.
Never heard of that.
Yeah, it's a 5-6 minute episode show. He does like these really quick recordings as he's driving to work.
Nice.
And he's a direct response guy, so he talks about copywriting and setting up, lead funnels and all that kind of stuff, which really kind of gets me all excited. And I like the quick and dirty tips. So
absolutely.
What's
the name of that again?
Marketing in Your Car.
Marketing in Your Car. All right.
Yeah, the audio quality isn't stellar, but he's driving to work, so
yeah. And you're kind of waiting for him to see if you're going to tune in that session where he crashes.
Yeah. There's been a couple where he's like, oh, I'm in the intersection. Wait. Okay. All right, we're good.
Any other ones?
Another personal favorite I would have to say is Tropical MBA.
Yeah.
This is the podcast that actually got me started with podcasting in the first place. So I feel like I got to give that one a shout out.
That's James Shremko, right?
No, that is Dan Andrews and Ian Schoen.
Okay. I'm getting him confused with something then.
James does Super Fast Business,
okay.
And he's got a couple other. Actually, I don't know if that's the title of his podcast or not, but that's his brand. But the whole concept is live and work from anywhere and kind of on your own terms.
Which is what you do.
There's a little bit of a theme here,
yeah.
So anything about marketing, travel, and doing it on your terms.
It's almost like you're into marketing or something.
Almost.
Can we do one more?
Absolutely.
All right.
Let me see. The other one is Authority Alchemy. It's a show by Jack Mize and Brian Horn. And Brian is actually known to be the guy to help big brands get listed on page number 1 of Google a little while back. So their whole concept is how to position yourself as an authority, how to decide what type of an authority or authoritative figure you want to be, whether you're, a whole bunch of different things, but also the how-tos, which I really like. So it's a little conceptual, which is kind of along with how I like to approach stuff, but then they get into the how-tos.
Awesome. Well, tell everybody about your podcast, where they can find it.
Awesome. Well, yeah, I run the Authority Engine podcast. You can find it at authorityengine.com. And I talk about how small business owners can use podcasting as a marketing tool to grow their business, to improve the relationship they have with their audience, and turn those passive listeners into paying customers.
There you go. Well, thank you very much, my friend.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Dave.
There you go.
All right. And I just realized, and again, it was the last day of the conference. We're all a little brain fried. And that's 4. Tim Ferriss, Marketing in Your Car, Tropical MBA, and Authority Alchemy. We'll throw his in there, Authority Engine, to get number 5. But notice something here that I thought about this. I use a program called Feedly, FEEDLY.com. And I subscribe to literally somewhere between 100 and 200 blogs to keep up with what's going on in podcasting, as well as other areas of my life. And I don't know that when I'm reading a story, I'm reading a blog post, that I know who it is. And if you said, if somebody said, tell me about something you read about, and I go, I saw where a copy blogger killed their Facebook page. And somebody said, oh, really? Who wrote that? I'd be like, I don't know. I know it was copy blogger, but that was it. Where, can you name the last author of the blog post that you read? I can't in many cases, or if I read something in a Google, but everybody knows the name of the podcast, or at least in this case, Ben did, which I just, as I was listening to that, I'm like, you know what? That's kind of cool.
In case you missed it, it's time for a podcast rewind.
Alrighty, one of my favorite shows is the New Media Show with Todd Cochran and Rob Greenlee. Of course, Rob now works for Podcast One, and Todd Cochran, the guy that wrote the very first book on podcasting and the man behind Raw Voice and Blueberry, previously the man behind the Podcast Awards. And they do a great show. They have great guests, and most of it's about podcasting, but even if it's about, just new media in general, like we had a great discussion on the whole Stitcher sale, and Rob, both those guys have huge amounts of experience and insight. And if you listen to the show, I am not anti-SoundCloud. I just say it shouldn't be your primary source. If you want to waste $15, because when I look at my stats, it's bringing me 2% of my audience. 2%. Yeah, that's it. Because I don't promote it. It's there, and if you find it there, fine, but it's not bringing me a lot of downloads. And for the record, there are a couple of things that people think. I had somebody today that was going to sign up at Libsyn. And they said, yeah, because once I'm on Libsyn, man, the downloads are going to come. And I go, well, you'll be able to track them. And he said, okay, well, would I get more traffic at Blueberry? And I go, it doesn't matter who your host is. It matters what is your content. A new mixer is not going to get you more listeners unless your audio is really, really crap. That's the back end. What gets people in is, like we just heard from, who said that? Was Colin Gray was talking about that startup podcast. That's getting people talking about it. So a new mixer, a different media host. You want your media on a media host. I was talking with somebody on LinkedIn this week, and again, they want to use, HostGator. They want to use Bluehost as a media host. Not a good idea. It's painting with peanut butter. We've talked about that a lot, but check this out. Listen to the insights, because Rob, before he worked for Podcast One, worked for Microsoft. He was Mr. Zune, Mr. Microsoft podcasting guy. Check out this. And this is where you go. This is why you really, really, really shouldn't use SoundCloud as your primary podcasting platform.
Well, and the podcast feeds that are generated out of SoundCloud are not valid. I mean, not really fully properly formatted RSS feeds either. They don't parse properly. They're missing the iTunes. The iTunes category tag is completely missing from those feeds. So there's basically a hacked RSS feed that isn't properly formatted. It's not even properly formatted in the RSS spec. It comes across as a text file. So it's
that's rookie.
What's that?
That's rookie.
Yeah. So it's I don't know what those guys are doing. I do know that they've been working a little harder on their graphics presentation and how they present their metrics around downloads. But I'm just not a big fan either. I mean, honestly, I'd love to see them succeed, but they're just not a podcasting platform.
And I was actually on that show talking about New Media Expo, which of course I'm the director of podcasting at New Media Expo. I'm about 80% done selecting the speakers for that. I went through everything last night. Man, that's a rough gig. I'm telling you, it's a rough gig because you have two piles that make themselves super easy. One is the no way pile. Like you just read it and you're like, what? And then the other pile is, oh man, this is a great one. It's the middle of the road stuff that I'm like, oh, this is, So I'm kind of through round one. You know how football teams, you have your first cut and then your second cut. So I got to get down to 35. So we're almost done with that. And I've got to talk with Rick I have a couple questions about that. And so if you're wondering how are things going, I made a lot of progress last night. I'll put a picture where I started off with a yes pile and a no pile. And then that became became a probably pile, which later turned into the maybe pile. So I had yes, no, probably, maybe piles. And it's a rough gig. I'm telling you, it's because it's not because it sounds weird. I wish there were more bad ones because, we've got presidents of companies and all sorts of stuff. And it's like, whoa, okay. So it's very, very interesting. So speaking of shows you might want to listen to, here's a clip from myself and Eric K. Johnson from Podcast Talent Coach. We do a show called Podcast Review Show at, oddly enough, podcastreviewshow.com, where you can get your show reviewed. Let me do a quick 15-second commercial. Let's think about this. Eric has 20 plus years in radio. His station just won some sort of Big Shot Smarty Pants Award of the Year kind of thing. He's going to be on TV. I think it's a CMA Awards that they give it for like station of the whatever. But yeah, he's going to be there picking up award. This is a guy who knows content. And then you throw me with my 9 years of podcasting experience, and I got a little more technical aspect to things like that. And we go over your show with a fine-tooth comb and bring you on. If you want to go live, you can come on live with us. You can also, if you just want us to review your show and not come on live, because I realize some people are a little nervous about that. I don't know. They think we're going to hack them to bits or something like that. But here's a clip from the last show. And if you want to hear what we think about this podcast, you'll have to go over to podcastreviewshow.com. But this is from Tony. Check this out.
Drugs, you using drugs. Do you know that drugs are witchcraft? They are. They are. According to the Bible, pharmacia. Okay? Sorcery. Okay? It's done with drugs. Okay? Okay? That's one form of witchcraft. You're doing drugs, you're practicing witchcraft. If you smoked a joint, you practice witchcraft. Did you know that? Yes, you did. But you probably didn't, but you did do it. If you smoked a joint, you practice witchcraft.
And I was telling him, I'm like, you know what? What's cool about Tony is either you're going to go, all right, that guy's crazy. Or you're like, wow, preach on, brother. It was, you can find Tony over at thestillman.com. He's working on, the show is actually called the Gospel Light and Truth Hour, which I kind of made fun for Tony. I was poking because his podcast was 2 hours and 10 minutes. And I go, Tony tells time a little differently than I do. But that's the latest episode of the Podcast Review Show. And if you're looking to get some unbiased feedback on your podcast, Tony was very, I need to bring that in here. Tony basically did a commercial for us at the end of the show. And if you're interested in that, go over and check out podcastreviewshow.com/review me. And that will, you'll have us going over your show with a fine-tooth comb. Check it out. All right. You know what? Normally, I'm just talking to you. Yeah, you with the earbud. Right. You rock. You really do rock. But for a second, let's talk to everybody listening. I wish we could have like a battle of the podcast audiences, because my audience rocks. And yesterday, I had I got all these submissions I got to go through and things like that. And you guys just came through with a ton of questions. So we're going to answer a bunch of questions today. I didn't get permission to say who said this, so I'm not going to mention her. That's all I will say. But last week we were talking about Audello, Audello. If you want to check it out, go to schoolofpodcasting.com/Audello. And I said last week, if you missed last week, this is a program that's being launched this week by a very famous internet marketer. Now, for the record, there are plenty of internet marketing people that are fine, upstanding, trustworthy people. And I'm not saying that this person isn't. What I'm saying is I think this person is uninformed of podcasting. And when they first came out of the gate, they were saying things like, you can make, 98% of podcasters make $10,000 a month. Now, I don't know if that was exactly, but it was a claim that was outrageous. I mean, really and I talked about it last week, and I pointed out that there are a lot of things that they're saying their system does that you can do for free. The other thing I thought was interesting, I went and checked out their site, a couple things, and at some point they're pointing themselves to SoundCloud. Well, my ex-wife had a friend who literally was a crack whore. Now, when I say she was a crack whore, I mean she sold her body for crack. And my ex-wife would say, well, at least I'm not Michelle. And I'm like, I hope not. She's a crack whore. So when you say we're better than SoundCloud, am I saying SoundCloud is a crack whore? Kind of. Yeah. Not really saying much. The bar's kind of set kind of low there. So I thought that was interesting. And I approached them and said, hey, I'm Dave Jackson from the School of Podcasting, thinking that meant something. Can I get like a 3-day pass? I just want to kick the tires on this. Because if it's something I'm going to recommend, I got to kind of taste it, smell it, lick it, see what it does. And they went, no, you can buy it, and there's a money-back guarantee, so just ask for a refund. And I'm like, hey, that's convenient. Thanks. So I will probably do that. It's $200. $200 for the next 1 day and 20 hours. After that, it goes up to $300. It's ridiculous. And so what I did, because I really wanted to find out about it, and I'm familiar with the guy that made it because I used his Easy Video Suite, Justin Bartlett, and he has an affiliate program. And a lot of times, again, these internet marketing people, they jack up the price and they give you literally, they have an affiliate program where if you refer somebody to them, you'll get like 50% of the money. That's why the price is so high. It's because, they're doing this affiliate thing. Nothing wrong with affiliates. I have an affiliate program for the School of Podcasting. I just don't jack up my price. I just don't earn as much when you take some of the money, but that's okay. You help me find a customer. And so I knew that his affiliates often got a behind the scenes look at the product, so I could talk about it. And I looked at it, and here's just a little behind the scenes stuff. They have a spot where they go, hey, here's the RSS feed. Now, if you're new to podcasting, we're not going to get super deep into this, but your RSS feed is if you're a radio station, it'd be like your numbers, like 98.5. And you want to own that. You want to be able to control that. And they say, just submit your RSS feed to iTunes. And I went, I wonder if they have a redirect. Because if you're using their platform to go to iTunes, what happens if after a while you want to leave? Or what if they quit supporting their product and it goes dead, kind of like the easy video program I had? And what happens? Is there a way to leave and not lose your audience? And so I sent an email to the support people, and I'm so upset because I deleted the email because it was like, huh? Basically is what I got. The response from their support people was, they said, if it doesn't exist, because the question was, do you have an iTunes redirect built into your system? Now, if you're a podcasting platform, you should know what an iTunes redirect is. And the support person kind of went, I don't know if we do or not, but if we don't, we'll probably build one. Right now, as we're just launching, we're a little busy. And I went, that's not my favorite answer on that. So just so you know, I think, like I said, probably in the next week or two, I will buy this, kick the tires on it, and then ask for a refund. Thanks for making it so easy for me. But the thing I also want to be aware of, realize they have an affiliate program. And at with this price going up to $300 and people going to get somewhere around $100, everybody and their brother is going to be saying this is the best thing since sliced bread. And you better look at their motives. Better look at their motives, because in some cases, they're just looking for that $100 commission. Again, I said this last week, go in with your eyes wide open. But here's the thing. This is why my audience rocks. One of my audience members sent me a screenshot, because if you go to Audello, one of the first things they do is they start throwing case studies. Yesterday, when I came over here, they still had John Lee Dumas's picture on it. And here's the interesting thing. So they made it look like, I'm scrolling down. I just want to make sure. Okay, they have, to their credit, they've removed, I take that back. Right at the bottom of the page, this previews some of the case studies. Yeah, so you can see a case study of John Lee Dumas. Now, here's what John Lee Dumas, as I go to leave their page, it says, wait, it's yours for free. See the experts reveal the powerful results they've been getting with this amazing opportunity. And one of those is John Lee Dumas. And now here's what John Lee Dumas is saying about Audello. In a Facebook group, he said this: at this point, I have a bad taste in my mouth about Audello. They interviewed me a long, as in capital Long, time ago about my journey. Then they've used that interview and my image in their advertising in a misleading way, making it appear as though I use and endorse the product, neither of which is true. Let's repeat that one again. They are making it appear as though I use and endorse their product, neither of which is true. Their founder was communicative and apologetic when I told him to cease and desist, and they have made changes to their pitch as a result. But it still leaves a bad taste in my mouth, and their claims, although very tempered down from their first round. Their first round was like, it will do your laundry. Still are pretty exaggerated and misleading all around. I'm not saying Audello is not a good product. What I'm saying is that their way of positioning has kept me away from finding out. Just so you know, if you go over there and, they're like, hey, John Lee Dumas is using it and blah, blah, blah. Well, yeah, okay. Little behind the scenes stuff going on here. And so be very, very cautious of that again. So in the same way that one of the reasons I've gone through, there's an episode I did. I went over 8 different media hosts, and one of the ones that I don't like is Podbean, because they do false advertising. They put people on their front page to make it look like these big, huge networks are using their service, and they're just not. And to me, if you have to lie about your service to make it look like it's really cool, that's just lame. That's just, wow, where's your integrity? It just drives me crazy. So thank you, and you know who you are, for sending in that little find. And she says, I always tune into your show because you always provide great advice and honest, in capital letters, opinions about products, services, and people. So I wanted to let you know how much I appreciate that, and I'm very thankful for you. And keep on rocking the mic. Well, thank you very much for sending that in. And yeah, at this point, I should say, disclaimer, a lot of this is based on what I've seen, but I haven't really used the product. I've seen a video where they tell you to use their RSS feed. I think it's odd that they don't know if they have a redirect or not. And I'm seeing here that people that they're touting on their front page aren't actually using the product. In my opinion, that's not good. All right, one of the favorite things I love to do on this show is hear your voice and answer your questions. And every Saturday, I do a show called Ask the Podcast Coach. You can find that at askthepodcastcoach.com. And I do that with Jim Collison from theaverageguy.tv. Jim's really cool. He actually works for Gallup, and he has a lot of coaching experience in helping people find their strengths. And he does a lot with video and a lot of YouTube. So he's got a cool little perspective. I bring my perspective, and it's a fun time. And it was really weird because I didn't do one this week. Jim was out of town, and I wanted to take that time to work on the New Media Expo submissions. And so we didn't do it. And it was really, really weird not getting up and hanging out with, we have a great chat room over there. So we did, I thought I would answer some questions here today, and you guys did not disappoint. So let me play some of these for you. And this one is from Craig.
Hi, Dave. Hi, Jim. It's Craig here from inglespodcast.com, and I have a question for Ask the Podcast Coach. It's about episode titling. I've realized that I haven't been very clever in the way I've been titling my episodes, and I'd like to go back and retitle most of them so that they're more user-friendly for the listeners and they can find the relevant podcasts easier. Is that a good idea? I mean, if I go into Libsyn and change the episode titles, will that affect the feed or the download statistics? And obviously then I could change them in the blog post title. And following on from that, All
right, let's take that question. First things first, wow, is this a great question? Yes, this is a really good idea. In fact, a new member of the School of Podcasting just put out his first episode, and he put the number at the beginning of the show. And this is my opinion, but any kind of little code, let's say it was, yours is the Ingleus podcast. Maybe you put EGP or something -01 at the beginning to mean Ingleus podcast 01. Put that at the end. Because when you look at if you do a search, a lot of times what will come up is your listing in iTunes on a web-based version of your listing in iTunes, which doesn't give you much room for the title. And all of a sudden, this cool little thing that identifies your podcast and it has a number takes up literally about 30% of your title. Put that bad boy, if you must, at the end. Put it at the end. And yeah, absolutely, your title of your show is like the headline of a story. It's what gets people to click and listen. So the name of your show, the actual name, like I always say, this is the worst named podcast ever, The Morning Announcements. If I say that to somebody and ask them, what do you think the show's about? They're going to go, I don't know, school? Is it for principals? I don't know. But that's why it's now the School of Podcasting's Morning Announcements, which is a mouthful. So first there's your show name, and then your second one is the title of your episode. So yes, this is a good thing. Now, does it mess up your feed? No, it does not. It'll just update it in iTunes. It'll update it in iTunes on your feed. All that won't really cause a problem. Not a big deal.
Also got a redesign for my logo that I'd like to change. Is that an easy thing to do in Libsyn?
Yes. To make a long story short here, the great thing is the artwork now, minimum spec, if you haven't heard, is 1400 by 1400. I actually have somebody that I'm investigating. Their artwork was 300 by 300, which means it's really, really old. And their show got pulled from iTunes, and I see nothing else wrong with their feed. There was one error, and the error pointed to this image. The image, you could pull it up. It wasn't like it was behind a firewall. And then I downloaded. I'm like, dude, this image is 300 by 300. I've never heard of somebody getting pulled for having too small an artwork, but I will keep you posted on that. But here again, super easy to do. Think about this. We talked about how your RSS feed is like your frequency, right? 100.7. And you tell iTunes, listen to this station and never, ever, ever tune out. And they do. So every time you put out a blog post, It hears it every time you do anything. So here, the other thing it's listening to is not just your post, but it's also listening to the specific information that you've said about your podcast. So this is your description, and it's also the image. So if you change the image, you're good to go. I do have one tip. So let's say you called it album art logo.jpg. Okay. Now you get a new one made. It's bigger. Don't call it album art logo.jpg. Give it a new name. Call it album art logo 2, something like that. Because when you upload an image that's new, but it has the exact same name, sometimes iTunes doesn't quite get that. They just see the same name and go, oh, never mind. So give it a new name, and you just upload it, and then it's iTunes. Somewhere between 24 hours and, 2 weeks, they will finally figure out that you've updated it. And there's not a whole lot you can do. I mean, you can bug them, but images in iTunes, make sure it's JPEG. I know you can use a PNG file. I would go with JPEG. And like I said, it's 2048 by 2048 is the maximum size now. And I would go with that because they keep changing it. And then for your album art in your actual MP3 file, do not stick that giant file in your what we call ID3 tags. This is the information. It's inside your MP3 file. And I've got tutorials that'll show you how to do that. And if you put that giant file in there, in some cases, when you are using your file, the details like the length and the size, it messes that up, to make a long story short. And because in a nutshell, this image is taking up too much room inside the MP3, that's kind of geeked out here. But I tell people, 300 by 300, 600 by 600 maybe inside the MP3 file. I know you didn't ask that question, but since we're talking images, those are some things. But yeah, it's easy to do. I haven't updated my album art in a while. I probably should. I've got somebody who's been asking me if they'd like to swap imagery for podcast consulting. I might take him up on that.
Can I go in there and just swap out the new logo for the old logo, and that will automatically change in iTunes?
It does. It might take a bit. So bring a little extra patience.
So I'm a bit nervous about touching the feed because it's working so well. I'm just curious to see if I make these changes, how they will affect the way that the podcast looks in iTunes, and if you'd recommend it as good practice. Thanks, guys. I won't be able to listen to the show today because I've got something else on, but I'll listen after the fact. All the best.
Thank you, Craig. And hey, because you couldn't make it, we didn't have an episode this week. Maybe not. But and a couple things I want to mention here about your feed. There are two ways that I recommend making your feed. One, if you're using Libsyn, just use the Libsyn feed. If it's good enough for the NFL, I think it's good enough for you. The other way is you can use the feed from your WordPress site, and that will be, I recommend a plugin called PowerPress. And if you go to newmediashow.com, I was talking about that earlier, they're running the new version of PowerPress, not PodPress, PowerPress. And there's some really cool stuff because you've seen these different players coming out with buttons to subscribe. It looks like they've added that. I'm a little behind on what's going on with the new version of the PowerPress plugin. I'll be talking about that in the future because it looks really, really cool. And this is the other way. Now, the thing that drives me in terms of having problems with a feed, let me preface this to say I rarely have problems with a feed. It's kind of a set it and forget it. But on the rare occasion that I do, it's through my own WordPress site, not from Libsyn, because Libsyn, for the record, I don't add extra things to Libsyn. There's no plugins to add over there. And the few times I have had it was one, and it's almost always you're doing something out of the box. Like, for example, on my Jillian Michaels podcast, I copied a bunch of code of a video from some website where she was doing it, and it was just a quick, it was a podcast, but I had embedded this video from this other website. And for whatever reason, all this HTML and Java and gobbledygook just horked the feed. So I've also had other, not PowerPress. Again, PowerPress is a phenomenal plugin, but I've had other plugins. Now, if you're new to WordPress, a plugin is like adding air conditioning to your car. So you're adding more functionality to your website. And I've added plugins that basically go in and argue with PowerPress, and they cause conflicts. So again, this is a very, we're talking like twice in 9 years that I had a problem with my RSS feed. And in both cases, it was using WordPress. So please don't take that as Dave said, don't use WordPress. No, but I am saying this. You should subscribe to your show. You should subscribe to your show. And, you know, every Monday, it sounds weird. I'm not an egomaniac. The first podcast I check to see is if mine is there. And if it's not, I better run back and look and see, because everything should be, you know, working fine. So you should always be subscribed to your show. Number one, just to consume your product like your listener, and just make sure it's working. And in this case of a client I'm working with, he got pulled from iTunes, and apparently he got pulled a while ago, and he just kind of found out about it. Just went to look for his podcast and was like, wow, I'm not in here anymore. Whereas if you're subscribed to your podcast, you'd kind of know. So be careful. Like I said, in almost all my cases, I was copying and pasting some sort of code. And then I did have one where another plugin caused a conflict. But, you know, both those are fine. But, you know, and also feedvalidator.org. If you're wondering about your feed, if things aren't working, that's a tool you can use to see if, you know, why things aren't doing what they're supposed to do. So thank you, Craig. And thank you for listening to Ask the Podcast Coach. And I put that question here because I didn't want him to have to wait till next week to hear it. And I'll email him anyway. That came in via SpeakPipe. And I hesitate to play this next question, but I'm assuming if she's thinking it, you're thinking it, because it's going to sound like a giant commercial, but it's a question about the School of Podcasting. So it's my new buddy, Rhonda.
Hi, Dave.
Hi, Rhonda.
My name is Rhonda Hogan. I am currently on your website, and I am interested in learning how to podcast and to become a podcaster. I'm completely new to this, to podcasting, so my question to you is, I was Googling online trying to find school or online courses about learning how to podcast, and your website and School of Podcasting came up.
Okay, just to pump in here, we said this last week. The two questions you should be asking your audience is, number one, how did you find me? So she found me by Googling me. I got Googled. And second of all, what would you like to hear on the show? So in this case, I know that Rhonda found me from Google, which is very, very cool.
So my question is would your course is it geared for people who would be, you know, absolutely new to podcasting? Secondly,
let's take these one at a time. Yes, absolutely. This is meant for somebody who is like, what's a podcast? You know, what is a podcast? And it starts you, the very first course at the School of Podcasting is planning your podcast. From there's gathering content, and the tutorials show you how you can save time gathering information. Then it gets into recording your podcast. Okay, so how do I plug all the stuff in? That goes into gear. So what gear to pick, how to plug it all in. Then there's building your website, because now that you have a podcast, it's time to put something there. Some people go, should I build my website first, or should I record my podcast first? And I say, record your podcast first. Why? Because it may be that after you record a couple test shows, you go, this isn't for me. Maybe. Now, this is why I always say you always need that passion to push you through. But then once you have an episode, then build your website and start collecting email addresses, start building some buzz. And as you're building that website, keep recording podcasts so you have a couple in the can. So yeah, record your podcast, build your website, then publish it. How do I get it into iTunes? What is Libsyn? What is Blueberry? And I've actually got a tool in there that shows you. I talked about the ID3 tags. It'll walk you through that. It'll show you how to use Libsyn. It'll show you how to do Blueberry. And I've actually got one tutorial that shows them side by side. Like, this is what you would do if you did that. Because if you're like, well, which one should I pick? I show the pros and cons. And there's really not a wrong answer there. They're both great. But that, and then the last one is promoting your show. And listen to what Rhonda says. If you ever wonder how things come about and how do I get ideas for tutorials, well, it's voicemails like this.
Do you have or can you provide a complete list of everything that is covered in the course itself? And thirdly,
well, let's talk about that. It's interesting. Yeah, if I look at this, I went into planning your podcast. What is a podcast? Your motivation, the podcast, the big why, your podcast name, how to get audio into your computer, the where of podcasting, how much media hosting do I need? Should I have a host or a ho-host? Yes, a ho-host, that's different. How about a host or a co-host? And then there's actual file management. Like if you're new to computers and you're like, what is all this stuff? How do I keep losing my files? It actually walks you how to organize your files so you don't lose them. Again, I'm here about saving you time and money along the way. When I look at content gathering, it's things like using Feedly, using an RSS feed from Amazon to let you, if you're a person that wants to know about books, because books have authors who need to get the word out. It's a great way to get guests. Using Google Alerts to send information to you. Following conversations on Twitter, getting to know your audience and how to do a survey, using Google Images to find like-minded people, creating great content and creating great interviews. That, again, is under content gathering. If I go to recording your podcast, this whole tutorial, and this is why this list is not on the website. I guess I should, because it's a lengthy list, and we'll do one more of these here. Finding music for your podcast. Again, file management, Audacity tutorials, Sony Music Studio tutorials, Adobe Audition tutorials, and exporting out of GarageBand if you're on a Mac. Then there's a one on how to make your show intro. And if you want, I actually have one video that's just called Watch Dave Produce an Episode. And you just watch me go from start to finish through the whole thing. And then, like I said, there's a whole section on setting up your studio, using Skype and performing interviews. The list goes on and on. Under building your website, how to install WordPress, what to do after you've installed it, what is a post, what is a page, how to set up, how to add menus, how to handle comments, adding images to your post, how to change a theme, what is a theme, podcast plugins, what are they, premium plugins, how to install them, 5 different tutorials on PowerPress, controlling your RSS feed, how to add SpeakPipe to your website, how to put your WordPress website on autopilot and go on vacation, make easy to remember links. I could go on, and this is where I say it sounds like a giant commercial, but that's why there's not a big giant list, because it's a big giant list. And this is where it's kind of bad marketing to say everything you need is at the School of Podcasting, because it's, it can't be everything. No, it is. It's seriously everything. So I will stop reading that, but it's a long list, and here's why. We'll keep listening.
Is your material updated? Do you update the material on a regular basis?
A quick answer is yes. When do I update it? When my tutorials no longer are able to teach you how to use the software. So, for instance, right now WordPress 4.0 is out, and I need to see if you can watch my tutorials and still use WordPress. Now, there are some new things. I know in the media gallery, I need to look at that. So, yes, I do. And in the event you find something that is not, it's out of date, I will update it immediately.
And do you talk about equipment that could be compatible with mobile devices to use for podcasting? For example, I have the iPhone 6 Plus, and I'm very interested in using that on a mobile basis, to be able to do some interviews and podcasts with. So I would want to know, about, certain accessories and things of that nature that could be connected or used with the iPhone in order to make it into, a mobile podcasting device.
Now, what's great about this is I looked and I'm like, you know what? I have a section there about live podcasting. But I don't really have a thing about using your iPhone to make a podcast. Now, which is interesting, because as I'm playing Rhonda's clip on Boss Jock Studio on my iPad, which you could also use on your phone. And usually what I do with things like this, in many cases, there's not a one size fits all. And one of the great things about the School of Podcasting is you can send me an email And in some cases, if we need to, we'll get on the phone, but most of it's handled via email. And I'll find out, like, tell me about your show. Tell me how you're going to produce it, what it is. And then I can really recommend the right equipment and the right tools for that. So, but it's a great idea. I probably should add a section on using your phone as a podcast tool. It's a great suggestion. And that's why there's so many tutorials at the School of Podcasting, because people like Rhonda ask me a question. I go, oh, that's a good question. I should add that to the School of Podcasting. So that's, thank you very much, Rhonda.
So those are some of the questions that I have. I'm very much interested in your curriculum. I also just want to clarify the pricing that I see online is $99 for the first month, and then $9.99 per month for each additional month.
Yep, that is true. It looks like a typo. $99 the first month and $9 after that, $9.99 after that. The reason for that is the School of Podcasting used to drip content to you, meaning it would time release it. Like here, the first month you get the planning section, and then the next month you get this and then that. And in a nutshell, there are people like, look, I need a podcast like now. So I put all my content, like when you log in, everything I just mentioned, you get that information. So if you want to come in and rip through everything and then leave, you can. And that's why that first month is a little more expensive, because there are people that will come in for a month, they'll learn what they need to learn, and they'll leave. By all means, that's fine. Thank you very much. And I would love your feedback. But I don't want you to leave. I want you to stick around. We have a phenomenal Facebook group, and we do monthly calls. And if you're a member of the School of Podcasting, you should receive an email by the time you hear this with a download to this month's phone call from October. And those are just Q&A. I sometimes call them think tanks. Sometimes I call them office hours, because it's the whole school thing. Isn't that cute? And we just get on and we just ask questions and shoot and share insights and tools and resources. So we do that once a month. And like I said, I'm always adding new tutorials. So I want you to stick around. And in the past, I used to have one fee, and it was the same fee every month. And people would hang around for, 3 or 4 months. And then they'd go, I think I got enough. And by having this lower price point, people are hanging around for years, and they're bringing more value to that. So they get value, I give value. It's a win-win for everybody, and my community builds. So no, that's not a typo. That is the way it is. And I think, if I remember right,
the membership is kept. Just want to confirm that is correct.
That is correct.
If you would, please give me.
Okay. And then she gave me her phone number, and I did call her, left a message for you, Rhonda, and I also sent her an email. But so that's a glimpse behind the School of Podcasting, and that's about as much as I've ever pimped, I think, the School of Podcasting. But Rhonda was like, hey, I got, can you fill that in? So thank you so much for tuning in now. Rhonda, if you're listening to this, use the coupon code LISTENER, LISTENER, and that first month, there's a big discount for that. So check it out. If you want to join the School of Podcasting, use the coupon code LISTENER. If you don't have a website yet, send me an email with the title Quick Start. And what happens, and I'll say this real quick because I realize we're going long here today. I will send you a link to order your hosting. I earn a commission. Is my way of saying thank you. I will install WordPress and the plugins you need to get started. So you get a website, plus you get a free month at the School of Podcasting. And all you have to do is spend whatever, $9 for that first month of hosting. And I get a generous commission for that. So that's how that works. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. Next week, we will be talking, I think in the future, about Audello. I'm still working on that story from radio folks. That has kind of been put on hiatus temporarily as I dig through the submissions. And probably by next week, I should be done with that. Like I said, I got to talk to Rick, the main man behind New Media Expo. And don't forget, email me, Dave at schoolofpodcasting.com. What is your absolute favorite podcast? What's it about? Why do you listen to it? And then tell us a little bit about your show. And that I will be taking those submissions through November. If you're listening to this in December, you got to wait till next year. But thank you so much for tuning in. Let me remind you to live today like it's your last one. Live tomorrow like it's your first. And don't ever let your problems bring out your worst. I had a day yesterday. I'm telling you, everything I touched died. I had to reboot my router. Let's see, my iPhone, I went to upgrade it and it died. and I had to wipe it and redo that. Thank you, by the way, Rob Walsh, today in iOS.com, because Rob always says, back up your phone first. I did. Man, thank you, Rob. Because of his podcast, I didn't lose a thing, and it's a great show. But so my iPhone died. What else happened? And by the end of the day, I lost it because I have an electronic toothbrush and the batteries were dead. So don't ever let your problems bring out your worst. Don't ever take your mind off. Whatever is your goal, be true to yourself and follow your soul. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see you again next week with another episode of the School of Podcasting's morning announcements. Take care and God bless. Hope to see you on the inside. Hit it, ladies. Ladies? Where's my ladies? Hello? Oh, there they are. Wrong button. Where's the ladies at? There they are. The School of... All right.